The stars shimmered like silver dust in the black ocean of space. Far below them, on a green and blue planet called Aurelia, humanity had built its first colony outside Earth. The planet was beautiful, vast forests, crystal lakes and skies that turned golden every evening. It felt like paradise, but it came with rules. Those rules were written in the Treaty of Peace, signed between humans and the alien species called the Volari. The Volari were old, graceful beings with silver skin and voices like soft bells. They had lived on Aurelia for thousands of years before humans arrived. They allowed humanity to settle, but on one condition: never cross the boundary. The boundary was an invisible line deep in the forest, beyond which only Volari were allowed. No machines, no humans. The treaty said the forest past that line was sacred. The Volari never explained why, and humans never asked. They agreed because they needed the planet. The Volari were powerful, and everyone knew humanity could not fight them. Not yet. For 5 years, the peace held. Humans built cities on the open plains and left the deep forests alone. Children grew up hearing the same warning over and over: never cross the boundary. Never. Captain Darius Cole stood on his porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in crimson and gold. The air smelled of wildflowers and distant rain. His son, Ethan, ran across the yard with a wooden toy sword, pretending to fight dragons. At 15, Ethan was tall for his age, with restless eyes that always searched for something new. He hated rules, he hated walls, and most of all, he hated the boundary. "Dinner in 10 minutes, Darius called. Ethan waved but didn't slow down. He swung his sword at the air, shouting, "For glory!" The boy laughed as if the whole world belonged to him. Darius smiled, but worry tugged at him. He remembered being young, hungry for adventure. But here, curiosity could kill. The Volari weren't violent unless provoked, but the treaty was strict. One mistake, and everything could fall apart. That night, the rain came softly, tapping against the roof. Darius sat at the table, reading reports on his hollow screen. There were whispers from the north, Volari movements near the boundary. Nothing, confirmed but enough to make him uneasy. "Dad," Ethan said suddenly. He was leaning on the window, staring at the glowing forest in the distance. "What's beyond it?" "You know the answer," Darius said without looking up. "Sacred land," Ethan said in a mocking tone. "But that's just a story. There's no magic out there." "It's not magic," Darius said calmly. "It's respect. We made a promise." "But don't you want to know?" Ethan turned, eyes bright with excitement. "What if there's something amazing? What if they're hiding something from us?" Darius sighed. "They are hiding something. Something they don't want us to touch. And that's enough reason to stay away." Ethan frowned. His father's voice was firm, but his heart was full of questions. Why would an advanced species care so much about a patch of forest? What was so important that even machines were forbidden? The thought burned in his mind like fire. The next morning, Ethan made his decision. The forest was silent when he entered, carrying a small pack and his father's old compass. Sunlight broke through the leaves in golden beams. The air was thick, with strange scents, sweet and sharp at the same time. Birds he had never seen before flashed between branches, their feathers glowing faintly like embers. Every step he took felt like stepping into a dream. And then, he saw it. The boundary. Wasn't a wall or a fence, just an invisible line marked by tall silver stones with Volari symbols. They pulsed softly, as if alive. Ethan touched one. It was warm, like skin. He hesitated for a moment. His father's warning echoed in his mind. The treaty, the peace, the danger. But curiosity was louder. He stepped over the line. The forest changed. The air grew warmer. The colors grew brighter, too bright as if someone had turned the world into a painting. Flowers opened in front of him, glowing with soft light. He heard whispers, soft, musical voices, carried by the wind. His heart pounded, but he kept walking. Deeper and deeper, and then he saw it. In a clearing stood a massive tree taller than any building. Its trunk shimmered like silver metal, and its branches stretched into the clouds. Hanging from the branches were orbs of light, each glowing with a soft blue flame. They floated like stars trapped in glass. Ethan stared in awe. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He didn't know the Valari called it the heart tree, the source of life for their people. He didn't know that no human had ever seen it and lived. He only knew one thing. He had found something incredible, something worth breaking every rule. Far away, deep in the shadows, a pair of silver eyes opened. They had been watching since the boy crossed the line. The Valari moved silently, their shapes blending with the glowing trees. They did not speak. They only watched, because this was not just a boy breaking a rule. This was the beginning of something much greater. The forest beyond the boundary felt like another world. The light was softer here, glowing from strange plants that pulsed like living lanterns. Every leaf seemed alive. Every shadow seemed to breathe. Ethan's heart raced with excitement and fear. He stood under the giant silver tree, the one with glowing orbs hanging from its branches. It was so tall it seemed to touch the clouds. He reached out to touch the trunk. It was smooth and warm, almost like skin. A soft hum vibrated through it, like a heartbeat. "What are you?" Ethan whispered. His voice sounded small in the endless forest. One of the blue orbs above flickered as if it heard him. Suddenly the ground shook. Ethan stepped back quickly. A low sound echoed through the trees, a sound that wasn't wind. It was a voice, deep and melodic, speaking in a language he didn't know. The air grew heavy, and the glowing plants dimmed. Ethan froze. He wasn't alone. From the shadows, a figure appeared. It moved gracefully as if floating above the ground. Its skin shone silver and its long hair shimmered like strands of light. The figure's eyes glowed pale blue, watching him without blinking. It was a Valari, a real one. Ethan had seen pictures before, but they didn't compare to this. The alien looked like a living statue, tall and elegant, dressed in robes that seemed woven from starlight. Ethan's breath caught. He wanted to run, but his legs felt like stone. The Valari tilted its head. When it spoke, its voice was calm but strong, like the ringing of a bell. Human. Ethan swallowed hard. He couldn't understand the rest of the words, but the tone was clear. A question. I'm just looking, Ethan said nervously. I didn't mean to. The Valari raised its hand. The glowing symbols appeared in the air, floating, like blue fire. They moved closer, forming a circle around Ethan. He tried to step back, but an invisible force pushed him still. His heart pounded. Was this magic? No. It was technology. Alien technology. The Valari spoke again, and this time, the words shifted, reshaping into English through some kind of translator. Why do you cross the sacred line? Ethan licked his lips. His voice trembled. I wanted to see what was here. I didn't mean harm. The Valari's glowing eyes didn't soften. Your kind swore never to enter this place. I know, Ethan whispered. But why? Why is it forbidden? For a moment, the Valari was silent. Then slowly it lowered its hand and the glowing symbols faded. You do not belong here, the Valari said softly. Its voice was like music, but there was no kindness in it, only warning. Go back before the forest judges you. Ethan didn't know what that meant, but the way the alien spoke sent chills down his spine. He nodded quickly. Okay, I'll go. He turned to leave, but then he saw something that stopped him. At the base of the great tree, half hidden by roots, was a shape, a metallic object glowing faintly. It looked like a machine. Human, not alien. A small beacon, cracked and broken. His eyes widened. How did that get here? No human was allowed beyond the boundary. He looked back at the Valari. It hadn't moved. Its glowing eyes followed him, unreadable. Ethan took a deep breath and ran. He didn't stop until the silver stones came into view. His chest burned as he crossed back over the boundary. The forest behind him fell silent, as if it had swallowed the sound of his footsteps. When he reached home, the sun was already sinking. His father was on the porch, waiting. "Where were you?" Darius's voice was sharp. He stood tall, arms crossed, his face carved with worry. Ethan froze. His heart was still racing, but he tried to look calm. "I was exploring," he said carefully. "Exploring where?" "The river," Ethan lied. Darius stared at him for a long moment. His eyes were hard, but he said nothing. He just turned and went inside. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. The image of the Valari burned in his mind. Its glowing eyes, its voice, and the broken human beacon under the sacred tree. What was it doing there? Why didn't the Valari destroy it? Unless they couldn't. He needed answers. But he also knew one thing for sure. He had been seen. Far away, under the silver tree, the Valari stood in silence. Two more figures joined it, both tall and glowing in the moonlight. "He crossed," one said, its voice like wind through glass. "Yes," the first Valari replied. "And he saw." "What will you do?" The first Valari looked toward the human settlements, where lights glittered in the distance. Its pale eyes glowed brighter. "We warned them," it said softly. "Once." It turned back to the tree, placing its hand on the shimmering bark. The hum of the tree grew louder, like a drum beat echoing through the forest. The glowing orbs above began to flicker one by one. The forest was waking. The next morning, alarms blared in the human settlement. Dari. The morning light spilled across the human settlement like gold, but there was no warmth in the air. Alarms still blared in the command center, and Darius Cole paced in tight circles. The Valari had sent only one word: warning. Yet that one word carried a weight heavier than any weapon. "How serious is this?" Darius asked the young officer standing by the hollow screen. "They're in orbit," the officer replied. His voice trembled. "No weapons fired yet, but they're moving fast. They could reach the planet's surface in hours." Darius ran his hands through his hair. "This is my fault," he muttered under his breath. "It's Ethan." He thought of his son. 15 years old, curious, daring, and now the boy had crossed a line humans were never meant to cross. Not just a line on the map, but a line in history. Meanwhile, Ethan sat on the roof of the family home, staring at the distant glow of the forest. The silver stones marking the boundary shimmered faintly even from here. He knew he had done something dangerous, something that could bring war, or worse. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. His hands trembled. "I just wanted to see." Suddenly the air shimmered and he froze. Something moved in the distance. A silver light gliding through the trees toward him. The Valari? No. This wasn't the figure he had seen before. This was smaller, faster, more like a scout. Its pale eyes scanned the area, then it stopped. Ethan's heart raced. The scout was intelligent. It was searching, and it had found him. Back in the command center, Darius watched the hollow screen as more Valari ships appeared in orbit. They moved in silent formation, almost like a school of fish gliding across the water. No one dared speak. Every human present felt the same tight knot of fear. Then the screen blinked. A single Valari symbol appeared, glowing in midair, and suddenly, the symbol reshaped into English. "Return the human." The room went silent. Darius clenched his fists. "Return him?" he repeated. Do they mean Ethan?" The officer nodded. "They know who crossed. They can track him." Darius's stomach dropped. He thought of the forest, of the heart tree, and the strange machine hidden among the roots. Something about that place felt alive, almost protective. But could it protect his son from the Valari? Ethan didn't wait. He ran. He sprinted across the settlement, past houses and streets he had known all his life, toward the forest. He had to reach the boundary again, had to warn the heart tree, whatever it was. The scout followed silently, moving like a shadow in pursuit. Branches tore at his jacket. Roots caught his shoes. Every step felt like running through a trap. Yet, Ethan didn't stop. He could feel the glowing orbs above the heart tree calling him, as if urging him to go faster. And then, just as he reached the outer edge of the boundary, he tripped. He fell hard, scraping his palms and knees. The scout hovered over him, glowing eyes fixed. It didn't speak, but Ethan could feel its intent. "Wait," he gasped. "I won't." But before he could finish, a sudden surge of light erupted from the forest. The heart tree pulsed, sending a wave of energy that swept over the ground. The scout stumbled backward as if thrown by an invisible force. The trees themselves seemed to shift, roots rising slightly to block its path. Ethan gasped. The forest wasn't just alive, it was protecting him. Far above, in orbit, Volari leaders observed the event through sensors that could detect even subtle energy shifts. "This human boy, he awakened something," said one leader, voice like a chime. Its silver eyes narrowed. "The heart tree responds to him." Another Volari responded, calm but firm. "It is dangerous. No human may touch the sacred life source. Yet the boy is unharmed. He may be more significant than we imagined." The first Volari nodded slowly. "Observe him, but do not interfere yet. Let us see what he is capable of." Back on the ground, Ethan pulled himself up and stared at the heart tree. The glowing orbs flickered and swayed gently, almost like welcoming him. He didn't understand what was happening, but he felt a strange connection, as if the tree itself could sense his thoughts. The scout hesitated at the edge of the forest. It scanned the area again, but Ethan realized something incredible. The forest was protecting him. The boundary wasn't just a rule, it was a shield. And somehow, the heart tree had chosen him. Ethan's fear began to shift. Curiosity, courage, and a strange sense of responsibility replaced it. He realized this wasn't just about breaking a rule anymore. This was about humanity's place in the galaxy, and he was standing at the center of it. Back at home, Darius had left the command center. He ran into the forest, calling for Ethan. Every step he took, he felt the weight of failure. His son had disobeyed, and now the Volari were threatening humanity. But as he neared the boundary, he stopped. A strange glow illuminated the trees. He froze, seeing Ethan ahead, standing unharmed beneath the heart tree. The scout hovered nearby but did not approach. Roots and plants had risen subtly, forming a protective barrier. Darius gasped. "Ethan, what is this?" Ethan turned to his father. His chest heaved, but his eyes shone with determination. "I don't know, Dad, but I think the forest is alive. It saved me." Darius looked at the heart tree, then at the glowing orbs, and understood. Humanity had been gifted or chosen, something the Volari hadn't expected. The forest hummed with power, and Ethan felt it thrumming through him, as if telling him, "You are the beginning of something greater." And far above, the Volari watched, silent but uneasy. For the first time, humans had crossed not just a line on the map, but a line in destiny. The Volari ships hovered silently above Aurelia, their silver hulls reflecting the sunlight like mirrors. Inside the largest vessel, the Council of Volari elders gathered. Their glowing eyes followed the monitors tracking the boy, Ethan Cole and the heart tree. "This human is not ordinary," one elder said, its voice soft but filled with authority. "The tree responds to him. No human has ever done this." Another elder nodded. "He has awakened the heart tree. If left unchecked, his actions could disrupt the balance of our world." The first elder's eyes narrowed. "We must challenge him. If he proves unworthy, the treaty will be reinforced and boundaries restored. If he proves capable, then perhaps humanity is ready to rise." The decision was made. The Volari would confront Ethan directly. Meanwhile, on the forest floor, Ethan stood beneath the heart tree, his fingers brushing its glowing trunk. The energy pulsed through him, warm and steady. like a heartbeat he could feel in his chest. He had never imagined anything like this. For a moment, fear vanished, replaced by clarity. He wasn't just a boy who had crossed a line. He was part of something larger, a connection between humans and the planet they now called home. "Dad," Ethan said quietly, sensing movement behind him. Darius stepped from the shadows, his face pale but determined. I saw it," Darius whispered. "The forest, it's alive and it trusts you." Ethan nodded. "I think it's protecting us, Dad. But we can't stay here forever. The Valari, they're watching." Darius swallowed hard. "Then we face them. We face them together." High above, a small Valari vessel detached from the fleet. It descended, through the atmosphere, its hull glowing faintly in the afternoon sun. Inside, the scout that had followed Ethan moved beside a larger figure, an elder Valari, tall and regal. The ship touched the forest floor gently, leaving barely a mark. Trees shivered as the visitors stepped out. The ground beneath them glowed. Faintly in response, a warning or perhaps a greeting, it was impossible to tell. Ethan stepped forward. "We're not leaving," he said, his voice firm despite the fear curling in his stomach. "We won't let you hurt the forest, or us." The elder Valari studied him carefully. "We do not seek to harm. We seek to test. The heart tree chooses, wisely, but only a worthy one may approach its power fully." "What do you mean?" Darius asked. The Valari turned its gaze to Ethan. "The boy has touched the tree. He has awakened it. Now he must demonstrate humanity's spirit, courage, intelligence, and compassion. Only then will the tree's power remain balanced." Ethan's pulse quickened. A test. He didn't know what he would have to do, but deep inside he felt a surge of determination. He was not just a boy, he was human, and humans had never backed down from a challenge. The elder extended a hand, and suddenly, 3 glowing symbols appeared in the air, a sphere, a flame, and a wave. "These are trials," the elder explained. "Sphere, wisdom; flame, courage; wave, heart. You must succeed in all 3, or the heart tree's energy will withdraw and humans will never enter the sacred forest again." Ethan swallowed. "And if I succeed?" "Then humanity may rise," the Valari said simply. "And the treaty may evolve." The first trial, the sphere, appeared as a glowing orb hovering above the ground. When Ethan approached, it split into multiple smaller orbs floating in a circle. Symbols shimmered inside each one, forming a puzzle. He realized quickly, the orbs needed to be arranged in the correct sequence, connecting patterns to form a whole. Time passed slowly, each second stretching as he focused. Darius watched silently, proud, yet anxious. Ethan's mind worked methodically, human logic applied to an alien puzzle. Slowly, the symbols clicked into place and the orbs merged into a single glowing sphere. It hovered before him, stable and radiant. A soft hum passed through the air. One trial complete. Next came the flame. A ring of fire erupted around Ethan, not burning but radiating intense heat and light. Within it, shadows twisted into illusions of fear, wild animals, giant predators, and even visions of Ethan's father being hurt. Ethan clenched his. The forest of Aurelia glowed softly as dawn broke, painting the silver leaves in shades of gold and green. The heart tree stood tall and proud, its orbs shimmering like stars. For Ethan, the trials of the past day felt like a dream. But the memory of the Valari's watchful eyes and the lessons he had learned stayed alive in his heart. Darius stood beside him, still amazed at what had happened. The human settlement slowly awakened in the distance, unaware that history had shifted that night. Humanity's position in the galaxy had changed, and it all began with a boy's curiosity. "Dad," Ethan said quietly, "the heart tree, it trusts us now. Not just me, all humans. I think it's saying we can be responsible for something greater." Darius placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "It's not just about trust. It's about proving ourselves. Today you showed courage, wisdom, and compassion. You showed that humans are more than just survivors, we can be guardians." Ethan smiled faintly. Guardians. The word felt powerful on his tongue. He looked at the glowing orbs and felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. The trials had awakened something in him, a connection to the forest, the planet, and perhaps even to the universe itself. High above, the Valari fleet lingered for a moment before ascending into space. The elder who had guided the trials spoke to the others through a comm system. "They are ready," the elder said, "not for war, but for responsibility. Humanity has shown spirit and balance. The treaty remains, but we will watch. Their next choices will determine their place among the stars." The other elders nodded. They had observed countless civilizations, yet few had shown the same combination of courage, intelligence, and compassion. Humans were young, but their potential was extraordinary, and one boy had proven it. Back in the settlement, news spread quickly. Scientists, explorers, and leaders gathered near the boundary to witness the heart tree from afar. Darius explained cautiously. "My son crossed the boundary. He awakened the tree, and the Valari tested him. Humanity passed." Gasps and murmurs spread among the humans. Some doubted, others were in awe. A few wondered what responsibilities came with such a gift. But one thing was certain: life on Aurelia would never be the same. Ethan stood quietly, feeling a mixture of pride and unease. He had faced trials beyond anything imaginable, yet this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and humans had only just begun to take their first step into the greater universe. That evening, as the twin moons rose over the forests, Ethan returned to the heart tree alone. He touched its glowing trunk and the orbs pulsed in response. For a moment he felt a voice, not spoken but understood. "Human, you are ready to protect, to learn, and to grow. The universe watches. Your kind may rise." Ethan felt a shiver of awe. He understood the weight of the message. The heart tree had chosen humans as guardians, not for power, but for responsibility. If humans failed, the balance of Aurelia, and perhaps more, could be disrupted. He looked at the silver forest, stretching endlessly around him. "I won't fail," he whispered. "We won't fail." Days passed and life began to return to normal, but nothing felt ordinary anymore. Humans worked alongside the Valari more openly, learning their technology and culture. Yet there was respect. The boundary was still sacred, but now it symbolized a bridge rather than a limit, a promise of cooperation, understanding, and vigilance. Ethan became a symbol of hope and inspiration. Children ran through the settlements, asking questions about courage and the trials. Adults debated philosophy, science, and the responsibility of their species in the galaxy. Humanity had awakened not just to adventure, but to purpose. Darius watched his son from the porch one evening. The boy had grown in ways no one could see, not just taller, but stronger in mind, heart, and spirit. "You've done more than I ever imagined, Ethan," he said softly. Ethan looked out at the forest, then back at his father. "It wasn't just me," he replied. "The heart tree. It chose us, all humans. We have to be ready. The universe. It's bigger than we thought." Darius nodded, understanding that this was only the first of many challenges. Humans had crossed boundaries before, geographical, political, even moral. But this was different. This was a crossing into responsibility, destiny, and the unknown. Months later, Valari and humans worked together to study Aurelia's deep forests, guided by the heart tree. Small settlements were built closer to the boundary, but always with care and respect. Humans learned from the Valari, but also taught them new ways of thinking, new ideas born from curiosity and ingenuity. The galaxy was watching. Other civilizations hidden among the stars would learn of this human awakening eventually, and they would see something remarkable. A young species, fragile yet bold, capable not only of survival, but of wisdom, courage, and compassion. Ethan stood at the edge of the boundary once more. feeling the heartbeat of the forest beneath his feet. He thought of all the challenges yet to come, of worlds humans had yet to explore, of choices that would shape the fate of entire civilizations, and he felt ready. Because humanity, despite its flaws, had proven it could rise when it mattered most. The heart tree pulsed one last time in the evening light as if nodding its approval. Its glow spread through the forest like a promise that humans and Valari could coexist, that curiosity and courage could open doors no force could close, and that a single boy's choice had changed the destiny of a species. Ethan smiled. The stars above seemed closer now, full of opportunity, challenge, and hope. Humanity had crossed a line, yes, but in doing so they had stepped toward greatness, and the universe would never forget them.